The next part of our story of genetics is something called sex-linked traits, which I hinted at a while ago that we'd be talking about sex-linked traits. So a reminder as you look down at the picture. The X and the Y chromosome are not homologous. The X is much longer than the Y, and the genes that are found on the Y pretty much just have to do with being a male. So you can see it determines the sex, which is the androgen, which is a hormone that is released to change the body into male, and then a gene that helps the sperm development. So Y is simply about being a male. Now the X chromosome has lots of genes on them. And what we have seen is, unfortunately, too, the X chromosome for some reason also seems to carry a lot of genes that cause disease in humans. So we're about to talk about genes that we only find on the X. It's not found on the Y. There is a dominant, which makes them healthy, and a recessive that is unhealthy or diseased. Since boys only have one X, if they get the dominant gene, they're perfectly healthy. But if they get the recessive gene, they have the disease. And this is the only two choices for boys, where girls, on the other hand, females, they have two X's. So this is going to work just like dominant and recessive, that if you have two dominant, then you're healthy. If you have one dominant, you're healthy. If you have two recessive, that's when you have the disease. So for boys, it's like 50-50 chance to get a disease, where girls, it's 1/3, right? And that it's a little bit lower in percentage when you talk about combining who the parents are. But in general, this just shows you that more males will have the disease than females. In general, in humans, it is 50%, 50% for most diseases. But for sex-linked traits, what you see is it really skews that more boys have it than girls have it. So that's what we're talking about here. Now, notice too that females are carriers if they are heterozygous, because they have the little a, and it can be passed on to the next generation. And that men are not carriers because either they have it or they don't. Either they're healthy or diseased. You know what genes they have if it is a sex-linked disorder. So some common sex-linked disorders. The first one is called hemophilia. It's caused by the absence of one or more proteins that is required for blood clotting. So when a normal healthy person cuts themselves, if it's bleeding, it's because you cut your blood vessel. Very quickly, you will have platelet formation, and basically you get a little clog, and it clogs up and you stop bleeding. What happens for someone with hemophilia is that the platelets take a lot longer to clot, or they may never really fully clot, and so that person bleeds more and for a longer period of time than someone that doesn't have hemophilia. And so we do treat this disorder now. We can give people, they go to the hospital and they get injections of blood clotting factors. So they don't really suffer from this disease like people in the past used to. Some people, hemophilia would mean death for such a slight injury for the rest of us. But now most people live with hemophilia just fine. Modern medicine. Very famously, the Queen Victoria was a carrier for hemophilia, and her children had either carried or had the disease. And they married into the royal family, and that includes one of her daughters who married Tsar Nicholas of Russia. And notice again, what do we see with sex-linked traits? It's just the boy, the child, the male child in the family. All the girls, no problem. Mom, no problem, right? but the one boy is affected. That it really just shows you this is a sex-linked disorder. Color blindness is another one. So in our eyes, we have what are called rods and cones at the back of our eyes, and there are receptors. And the rods see black, like light and dark, and then the cones determine color. And just kind of like your TV screens are red, green, blue, I believe. It's the same for your cones. And some people, they're missing some of those photoreceptors. They're missing some cones, or they're missing some photopigments. And that means they may not be able to tell the difference between two different colors. They may not be able to tell like different shades of the same color. And they may not be able to see color at all, but that's very unusual. The most common color blind we have in our society is called red-green colorblind. And that just means that they cannot tell a difference between red and green. So red, anything that's red or anything that is green looks the same color to them. So this is a good example of it. I mean, most of us that have normal color vision, you see yellow, orange, green, pink, and blue. Where someone that's red-green colorblind is just going to see this yellow and then everything in the middle is kind of greenish and then blue. So they're just not seeing that full spectrum the way we do. So if you go to the doctor and you get a physical, often a part of their physical is to have you look at pictures. And usually they ask you, what do you see or what number do you see? So if you were looking at A, anybody with normal color vision can see the red in here, number 29. If you do not have color vision, you cannot see that red, and so you will see something else. And same here. Like, what do you see? What do you see? What do you see? So if you have normal color vision, you're going to say 29, 45, I see nothing, 26. Sometimes this one I've seen the doctor ask me to run my finger along the path. If you are red-green colorblind, then you're actually, if you look underneath, there's the blue here. There's a number 70 because you can't see the red, but you can see the blue. And then for B, they can't see anything. There's no pattern there. For C, they would see the blue in here, which is the number 5. And for D, they would see nothing. So when the doctor says, tell me what you see, this is how they're testing to see if you're red-green colorblind. And then they'll do further tests after that. Another very common one is Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. It's caused by a lack of a protein that is necessary for your muscles to function normally. And so the absence of this means that your muscles start to what we call atrophy, and they also pull in and they tighten up. And so it's not possible to keep your feet in a way that you could walk or hold your hands in a way where you could use your hands or arms. So muscular dystrophy leads to being in a wheelchair by adulthood and usually ends your life early in age. So those are common disorders. Here are some more so you can see the muscular dystrophy, but here are all of them. So there's a lot of situations going on that X chromosome. So then now let's just do problems. So that's really what we were here to do. Gotten through our lessons, so we're going to switch over to problems. And our first problem. Color blindness is a sex-linked and recessive trait. A female is a carrier for color blindness, marries a man with normal vision. What is the probability? So, got to go back to your notes. And you're kind of thinking, okay, a female who's a carrier. So here's a parent. Again, parent. The female who is carrier, X, capital A, X, lowercase a. With a female that is a carrier for Oh, wait. A female's carrier marries a man with normal vision. So married with normal vision, the normal one, he has the dominant gene. Okay. Now we're going to do our Punnett square like we've been doing. This part hasn't changed. X capital A, X lowercase a. X capital A, Y. So capital we always write XY first, X before Y, and then we always write capital before lowercase. Always, I keep that the same. So again, in terms of probabilities of what is the probability of having a boy or a girl? It's always 50-50 because mom's going to give an X, dad's either going to give an X or a Y. So you always end up XX or XY. So notice 1/2 for girls, 1/2 for boys. That's always true. Of course, we're not really concerned with are they a boy or a girl. We're worried about the children. So what is the probability the children will be male? So I just finished that one. So that's 1/2. What is the probability their children will be colorblind? So we're looking for X little a y, that would be colorblind, or if the girl had 2 little a's. So only the boy has it. And out of 4, it's 1/4, right? How many of the children are carriers? So a carrier by definition is this one, 1 out of 4. How many of the girls are healthy? What is the probability the girls are healthy? Now you might want to think, oh, I'm going to take out of 2 because that's how many girls we have. But we still consider that the fact that whenever a child is born, there are 4 possibilities of being a girl and then being healthy or diseased. So even though it sounds like I'm asking for just this, I'm actually still asking out of 4. So how many of the girls are healthy? All the girls are healthy, but we're going to say 1/2. So what is the percent that you have girls that are healthy? You have a half chance to have girls, and that they're healthy. All right, then example 8. Hemophilia is sex-linked and recessive disease. A healthy man marries a female that has hemophilia. So parents, healthy man, and the female has hemophilia. All right, so notice if the female has the disease, then all of her sons will have the disease. So it's also kind of, again, showing you how we see boys having it more often. So what's the probability they'll have a carrier male? I could have answered that question without looking on my paper. So there is no such thing as carrier male. That is like a trick question, right? What is the probability they will have a healthy child? So healthy has to have a capital. Looks like 1/2, right? Only the girls are healthy. What is the probability of having a child with hemophilia? 1/2. A boy with hemophilia, still 1/2. Doesn't matter, boy, girl, child. We're always going to be out of 4. So that is how you do sex-linked disorders. You do have to be able to tell what the difference between, what is a boy and a girl, and whether or not you have the disease or don't have the disease.